It was a cold, quiet evening in Monsey, New York. The small suburban town just 30 miles north of Manhattan was blanketed in the hush of winter. Snow crunched under slow-moving cars and soft winds rustled through bare branches as Saturday night settled in. For many in this Orthodox Jewish community, December 28, 2019, was a sacred moment, a time of joy, reverence, and light. Inside a modest house on Forshey Road, the glow of menorahs flickered warmly against the windows. It was the seventh night of Hanukkah, and dozens of men, young and old, had gathered in the home of Rabbi Chaim Rottenberg to celebrate the end of Shabbat and continue the festival. Some were his students, others members of the tight-knit congregation. There were fathers and sons, scholars and guests. The rabbi's home sat adjacent to his synagogue, and on nights like these, it served as a spiritual and social center. Welcoming, familiar, sacred. As the men sang, prayed, and lit the candles together, the atmosphere was filled with peace. There were smiles, gentle laughter, and the rustle of long coats as congregants stood shoulder to shoulder. The scent of traditional food lingered in the air: brisket, latkes, fried dough. Children's shoes were piled by the door, and the warm hum of community buzzed through the walls like a melody. And then, just after 10 p.m., that melody was shattered. A dark figure appeared at the front of the house. He didn't knock. He didn't speak at first. He simply walked through the front door. At first, no one moved. Maybe they assumed he was lost. Maybe he had come to join. But within seconds, confusion turned to horror. The man, later identified as 37-year-old Grafton Thomas, reached into his coat and pulled out something long, metallic, and gleaming in the soft candlelight. An 18-inch machete. And then the screaming began. "No one is leaving," he shouted. Panic tore through the room. One man lunged to stop him. He was met with a vicious slash across the torso. Another tried to grab children and flee toward the kitchen, only to be knocked down and struck. Blood sprayed across the walls, pooling on the hardwood floor. People screamed in Yiddish and English, praying aloud, calling out names, trying to crawl to safety. The machete. 5 men were struck with devastating force, one with a fractured skull. A man lost a finger trying to shield another. In just minutes, the joyous Hanukkah gathering had become a blood-soaked battleground. One of the victims managed to stumble out through the back door, blood pouring from his wounds. He cried for help, alerting neighbors. Another man picked up a coffee table and threw it at the attacker, buying precious seconds for others to escape. The suspect turned, panting, his coat now soaked in blood, and then, without a word, he fled, out the front door, into the night. Inside, the floor was slick with blood. People were collapsed in corners, groaning, sobbing, trying to understand what had just happened. The rabbi's son had been among those struck. The walls that had echoed with prayers and blessings moments before now rang with sirens and chaos. Police arrived within minutes. Paramedics rushed to administer aid. Victims were loaded into ambulances, their fates uncertain. The community was in shock. In Monsey, a place many had chosen for its peace, its insulation from hate, this kind of violence felt unthinkable. But the blood on the floor, the shattered glass, and the fear still trembling in every witness's voice made it tragically, horrifically real. Meanwhile, Grafton Thomas was already on the move. He drove south